that if a woman her husband was makana, and she was nistata, and there were no Eidei Tumah, right? So he has to bring it to the Beis Hamikdash, and she drinks the mei hamorim, which was a combination of water and some bitter herb and some ink, and offer mikarka hamishkan. And so Rashi says, it's like if you have an open wound, it'll go down, it'll make you sick. If you have no open wound, at basar achai, it's nothing. But then the pasuk says, if the woman was not over an aveira, uteheri, and she is pure, v'niksa v'nizra zara, two things. She'll be cleaned, and she'll produce seed, right? V'niksa, she'll be cleaned, right? Now listen, if the woman didn't do any aveira, she's not dirty. So what's the v'niksa? What is she being cleaned from? There's a v'niksa, if a woman did not do the aveira. Number one, v'niksa, she becomes cleaned. We're not sure what that means. And number two, v'nizra zara, she bears offspring. The werte v'nizra zara teich Rashi, the words v'nizra zara Rashi translates. Okay, but look at the next words, parenthesis. Nachdem v'yez mefarish v'niksa. First of all, the word v'niksa, Rashi translates, you becoming clean, mimayim hama'orerim, from the cursed waters, kedilakam and Sev Gimel, we're going to go to later. So let's go out of the order in order, right? What's that v'niksa? She drank poison. And she's going to be cleansed from the poison, which means that we don't see the mayim hama'orerim as neutral, even though Rashi says when you put it on basar achai, nothing happens. We see the mayim hama'orerim as a net negative. So v'niksa means that whatever net negative could have come from my mama, because she was tehera, she's cleansed from that shmutz. No.
When they smoke this fire, and that never goes away. There's people talking about that. Yeah, I understand, but there's something wrong.
Why have to go so far? See, if she did something wrong.
Yeah.
He said, don't be
alone with this guy. She was alone with this guy.
Yeah, and she was.
I can say Miksa.
She's not innocent.
She's not innocent. She's never really innocent.
The question is why she get a reward then?
Yeah.
That's a whole different story. But
yeah.
No, but I'm saying the V'niksa, you could touch with Pashto saying
it shows that she didn't do anything.
She didn't do anything.
She did. She was Bashmut.
She didn't go all the way. Make her into such a holy balas tshuva like you never saw. And she can only become balas tshuva if she has a shakas tanaveda. And she only comes to the shakas tanaveda and then she's doing tshuva. So that's really the end of the seer. Yeah. But okay, so I hear what you're saying. Somehow I don't want to agree with you.
Of course not.
But why? Of course not. I'm also a guy. I'm also jealous. But I don't want to agree with you.
In the Gemara.
Huh?
If she's going to win out of it, then no one's going to do it.
That's one of the things I was going to bring up. The Gemara brings about the rules that she should go and she should be beseised with a man, and her husband would be makane in her, and then she would drink the mei seita and she'd have children. But the Rashi titles the Niksa, she's spared from the accursed waters. Okay, maybe it's because of what you said, that since there is the Lashon HaGemara, what you're calling with this smoke, this fires, is raglayim ledavar.
Yeah.
It's a unique expression to Masechta Seita. Raglayim, that's why.
Raglayim ledavar is unique to Masechta Seita?
Where else do you have raglayim ledavar in Shas?
I'm assuming it's a Mavusta thing.
Right. Because Seita is Mavusta. Raglayim, it may exist in other places. Raglayim ledavar is a very unusual thing. You know why? Raglayim ledavar means, in language of America, circumstantial evidence. We don't buy into circumstantial evidence. Minatayda.
Right.
Midrabona, we're always buying in. Raglayim ledavar is unique to Seita. I mean, maybe at a different place else, but it's unique to Seita.
He said, the Rambam said, if you don't see the actual thing, then nothing happens.
Right. So v'niksa means she's cleansed from the accursed waters. V'nizra zara says Rashi two things. If she had children with pain, children without pain. For children who were dark-skinned, fair-skinned children, and somehow that's better, don't ask me why. Is l'chayra tamu. The Rebbe asks classic Rebbe questions. The Makov and then Pirush is in Sifri, Gemara, Tosefta, Yerushalmi, and then Chomer. Whoa!
Just a parenthetical. Gittin, Kedushin.
But Lagabi what?
Gittin, it says the Gemara discusses case where a man gives a get, and it says it should take effect if he doesn't return. Discussion includes whether there's a raglayim ledavar. Just saying it is occurs. ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
Same, they're climbing the top, it's there.
But by Saita, there's a din Torah, a pasuk in Chumash, that's based on Raglayim Ladover. But okay, they will bring 5 Makkaidas for this: the Sifri, the Gemara, the Tosefta, the Yerushalmi, and the Chuma. Und in die alle Erter bringen sich noch in Yonei Bracha. They bring additional aspects of Bracha, such as Nekevish, the Charim, if she had female children, have male children. Tzarim, the Saruchim, if she had short children, have tall children. Und in etliche Erter, in other places it says Echad, you let the Shnaim, if she had one child, she'll have twins. You let us the Shtei Shonim, you let us B'chashona, if she had intervals of 2 years between pregnancies, she'll have 1 year intervals. So the Rebbe Shaila is, Favos is...
I'll tell you that bracha, sir. He's getting too old.
Want to say something?
He says he wants to be sorry bracha. He wants to be on a drilling.
Which one, what?
A drilling. Triplets.
Cool stories in Rebbe, but that's no.
Okay, go on.
Continue.
Keep the noise in the back.
The Rebbe was a very, very smart man. But this he Pashat couldn't understand. He was naive, he went over his head.
What?
But he brought up. He Pashat, in this way, he was Pashat.
He just likes words that Rebbe speak like
What did I bring up?
and he speaks like this, sir.
I didn't bring it, you bring it, I brought it up. Yeah.
We're just laughing.
Favos is Rashi Meshane from the Alle Elte. Rashi goes away from those other sources, which are partially his sources. He selects 2 of those listed, but only 2, which were Imaletas Betzad, Telet Berevach, if she had children with pain, if children with not pain, Shchedim, if her children were dark skinned, Yoletas fair skinned children. Bracket, Mendel special for you. Ulahoise for Lahoyer. As euch der Rambam bringt, bloß 2 von die in Yonah. The Rambam brings only 2, but a different 2. Aber nicht dasselbe verstehen in Rashi. No, Shemeledes Betzad, Taylor Berevach, if you have children with pain, you have children comfortably, which Rashi did bring, and Him Hayadaka, Leilach Nekevis, Leilis Escharem, instead of having female children, will have male children, which is of course another whole sikha. Why the Rambam also doesn't bring all the Gemaras that are found in the Gemara, but that's not this sikha, that's a different sikha. The Hafman Zog, and you have to say, as al derech pshat. You see, the Rebbe is going to make it. If you understand pshat, you'll understand in Yanesh Pirish Rashi El Teiro, the way Rashi and Teiro works. Ani lebas el leprusha from Mikra. Can medayik from the pasuk. If you understand how to read the psukim, you'll realize that according to pshuta shemakim psukim, it's not the tzvei brachas. Only these 2 brachas would apply to other brachas. What the Rebbe is going to do is very, very fascinating. It's really, really fascinating. And I don't know what words to quote to sort of present it. And maybe if I'd have been more prepared, I could tell it to you. But what the Rebbe is going to do is he's going to say that the reward for not being a Saita is like Mida Keneged Mida for yes being a Saita. That's how he's going to spin it. He's going to spin it that a Saita gets this and this Oynish, a woman who's a non-Saita gets this and this Char, and there's Zel Umazeh. The Rebbe is going to read the Psukim on the curse of the site, and the Rashis on those curses, and he's going to say that when it says in the end, "V'im loy nitma utahayrehi v'niksa v'nizra zara," has to be equal and opposite of what the Rebbe said before, and as you'll see soon, the Rebbe is going to show that only those 2 things would be in that case. The Rebbe is going to right away bring up an issue. You'll see it in a moment. Okay. But this is the direction of this sikha. The direction of the sikha is going to say that the nix of nizra zara has to be equal and opposite to what happens if she's chashom tmeya. There's another question. The pirush poshet for nizra zara is the simple meaning of nizra zara is as Abe Tehed, if she's pure vetzi, skip the parenthesis haben kinder. If she didn't have any children, she's going to have children. And some of them are first to learn what's the taj v'nizra zara. Hashem yitin lo Hashem zera. She have your children. Now, this was not.
If she didn't have children.
Okay, wait a second.
This paragraph doesn't say that.
Fine. The five sources, the Sifri and the Gemara and the Tosefta and the Yerushalmi and Tanchuma, didn't bring it either, right? But if you want to be literal, if you want to say that Rashi is pshat, forget about the Chazal. V'nizah zara means to have children, and Rashi doesn't say that. Wie kommt es, as Rashi was in Yoni is the father Shute Shemika Kanal. Rashi's whole idea is to read the biblical passages and interpret them basically. Taich Nizra Zara does not translate nicht as sie wird haben Kinder, not as Nizra means that she will have children, not as Taylor Berevech and that she's already had children, but it's not going to be so painful and they're going to be prettier, whatever the case is. So this is the first shaila. And I already told you the answer. The answer is that the v'nix of Nizra Zara has to be zela umazeh of the Maimah Ma'orer.
The water?
It has to be the opposite of the curse. And since in the curse there's no allusion to children versus no children, so in the blessing there's no allusion to children versus no children, there's just an allusion to how she's having children. I know that when I do this, I'm leaving you open to ask questions, and it's not fair because I didn't tell you. We're going to see it inside, but that's the trajectory of this sikha. That's why that's going to be the answer to this question. But of course, the Rebbe asked a much more fundamental question. There's an argument of Rabbi Kiva Nebishmo. Rabbi Kiva sagt, "V'nix of Nizra Zara Shem Hoysa Akara Nifkedes." Rabbi Kiva Taka says that if she had no children, if she was infertile, if she was barren, she'll have children. Zok to them Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel argues, "Im ken yistru kol ha'akaras v'yifkedu." If that's what it is, that if a person who's infertile is a soita and her husband is makana and she comes to the Beis Hamikdash, she drinks the mei hamorim, she's gonna have children. Then any woman who's infertile should do the soita trick. And in footnote 25, that Chana contemplated doing it. Okay, back to the text. Since Rabbi Shmuel does not think that V'nizra Zara could mean that an infertile woman will conceive and have children, because that'll create a whole new class of controversy, a class of thank you very, very much, of tzaris. So how does he translate V'nizra Zara? And he brings what the Gemara brought in the previous page. That whole list that we had before. If you have children in pain, they'll come easier, and tall instead of short, 2 instead of 1. Should I say again what I said before? In 1 year intervals rather than 2 year intervals, because he doesn't want to speak about the Akora.
But wouldn't you say that Derech Ha'ilum is, you get married, you have kids. So wouldn't you see a certain percentage of people that are applicable to Seita have kids already? Wouldn't that be a Pashta thing? In other words, already, then it's like almost moot. If it was an Akara, but most people are not, are not Akara, so then the whole thing doesn't apply. In other words, why isn't the Shaila to Rabbi Kiva, like, forget about the people that are Taka Akara, but there's so many people that are not Akara.
Touch the words.
No, but I'm saying the Shaila should be furthermore.
It's yesh em lemikron, yesh em lemasedes.
No, I'm saying it can't be literal because most people have kids. They already have kids, so it has to be something more than just having kids.
Okay, so I'm going to answer you. I don't want to have this conversation, really. Yeah. But you have to understand, who's likely to be a Saita? A 40-year-old woman or a 21-year-old girl? Kama Yaldus, the Mishnah says. Kama Yaldus, the Mishnah, when you tell the Saita, you're trying to get her to admit, before they erase the Abish's name, they tell her, what you've done, other people have done it also. It's not the end of the world. Because you wanted to admit. And one of the things that they tell her is youth. So maybe that's the answer to your question. But let's not have the conversation. Zoga Mefarshim, as Rashi led it with Rabbi Akiva, Rashi does not want to agree with Rabbi Akiva, even though the words are precisely Rabbi Akiva, that V'nizra Zara, she will have children. Shem Hoysa Akara Nifkedes. That the Rashi does not want to say what Rabbi Akiva says, mitzad the kasha for Rabbi Shmuel. That if if the Nizra Zara means that a woman who's infertile will bear young, so besides for your question, that will open up a whole new Pandora's box of yichud, that married women are going to be misyachet in order to conceive. So this is how the Mefarshim explain it, why Rashi doesn't say V'nizra. So let's bear in mind that we have two questions here. Question number one is, why does Rashi not bring the same list that the Chazal bring? And question number two, forget the list of the Chazal, bring Rabbi Akiva. The list of the Chazal is Rabbi Shmuel. Bring the list. Rabbi Akiva is the taich of the words. In other words, I don't think we would disagree that Rabbi Akiva's pshat is closer to the words, and Rabbi Shmuel's pshat is closer to the Inyan. It's almost like yesh ein l'mikra, ein l'masedes. You read the words literally, V'nizra Zara means have kids. If you read the words contextually, it means that the children that you're gonna have will be easier or healthier or more frequent or whatever it is. But the Rashi is a pshat. So Rashi doesn't want to say, Rabbi Akiva says because it's because Rabbi Shmuel's kasha. So the Rebbe says, no, I don't like it. Oh, but there's a big problem with this. As time is shal Rashi was named on the Rabbi Shmuel is for this, and he brings three different kashas on Rabbi Shmuel's pshat basically. And one of them is, look at the last two words on the last two lines on page 34. Was ist der größte Gewalt? Über nicht gscheire, an Akkora, oder a viele mehr an Akkora, wird das Tal, but it's nicht mehr da. So what? Adarabah. That's exact Abish that gave us a mitzvah that has the Surah and Achei Temimim.
It's Hashem, you could say, because it's involving erasing Hashem's name. It's
for the sake of Shalom Bayis.
More for the sake of Kiyum Ha'olam.
Yeah. Shaila Gimel is your Shaila, by the way.
No, but Shaila Bey is also a good Shaila, because it's not just about having it. Shaila Bey is also very good.
Yeah, right.
You know, there is some sort of like magic potion here, some like
a remedy,
secret sauce, exactly, that you get somewhere. What stops everybody from doing it?
Okay, Gimel. Bottom line is.
Oh, we're not going through the Shailas?
No. The bottom line is the kasha of the Rebbe on Rashi that is Yigola Rabbi Akiva is standing. Okay, we're not accepting the answer to the Mefarshim. So we got two questions on Rashi. Why does Rashi underquote the Sifri and the Gemara and the Tosefta and the Yerushalmi and the Tanchuma and say only two things? And Beklal, why does he bring those two which are a part of the Shita of Rabbi Shmuel? Rabbi Akiva's Shita that V'nizra Zara means a woman who couldn't have children, she could even have children. It's Pasha the tie to the words. It's Pasha the tie to the words. And he doesn't go with that there. Okay, Gimel. The Aschala von Lashon Rashi. And this is really a very good kasha. It's Mamash Amer and the kasha. This kasha is like a hit the head with a hammer. You know why? Because you say, yeah, you can't answer this. A woman was accused by her husband of doing inappropriate, or of being not so tzanu, right? The Chazal bring a machlekes whether it's a mitzvah lakana. It's also a Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer, I think, whether it's a mitzvah lakana or let's not be sure, or not mitzvah. We paskin that it's mitzvah lakanes. It's a mitzvah lakanes. It's a mitzvah to make. It's ein adam lakana be'ishtei elam kein avar of ruach ta'ara. It's not paranoia. It's not jealousy. It's not baba maises. It's a ruach ta'ara. It's very interesting. And Ram, of course, describes how do you tell that to your wife, and she should take it from you without punching you in the nose, hitting you with a pan. You know, chutzpah, how dare you? How dare you? And the Rambam says there's a way to say it that your wife will be able to listen to it. I'm assuming you can't just come to any husband, any wife. If you live like tzaddikim, then a husband can say this to his wife.
Otherwise,
and he tells her al tisasri, and then there is stira be'edechad, right? That's the big chiddush. So then you take it to the Beis Hamikdash, right? Of course. So, and the woman is proven to be a tahira. She's an elech afroi. She refuses to back away. She doesn't say, I'm not going to drink the water because she'll lose her ksuba and she'll lose her husband. She doesn't say Tmei Nechi because it's not true. She goes through with it in spite of the bushes they cover her hair and all kinds of things to her, which are very, very unbecoming. And she knows she's a tahira. She goes through all of it, and then it says v'niksa. V'niksa says Rashi. Euch darf verstehen die Haschala von Lashon Rashi. V'niksa. V'zel l'shein. I focused on this in the very beginning of the Sikha already. V'niksa mayim ha'ma'arerim. She's cleansed from the cursed waters. Really? V'niksa means she's cleansed from the cursed waters. Why? She has no shaykhs to the cursed waters. There's no sore on her skin for the poison to get in. V'le'ed, moreover, nizra v'zara. And what's nizra zara? That if she was having children with pain, she'll have them without pain. If she was having children with darker complexion, or children with a fairer complexion. L'cheira, my kamash malan. Why is that a chiddush? That v'niksa means mimayim ha'ma'arerim. That she's cleansed from the effect of the accursed waters. So Chmuf Mel but self-understood. As das is doch der Pirush HaPoshet from V'niksa. The simple translation of V'niksa is Ukemefurish Frir in dem Shvua. Now here's the key words of the Sikha right here. That when the Kohen is mashbiah her, he tells her im nitmis im loy nitmis. Right? This is it's a t'nai. So it's a t'nai kofel, and it's it's presented all the halachas of t'nai, which are b'nei God, the b'nei Ruven. You also have over here. You have to say the positive before the negative, and so on and so forth. So everything is said twice. It's very spelled out very clearly in the Chumash. If you did not do an Aveda, you're going to be cleansed. And if you're not, then it's going to be whatever it is. Chinaki, like the Gemara translates the word hinaki. In the Shua, that's explained earlier in the vow, was the Kohen is in Mashbiah of him, so what's the Rebbe's Kasha? What's the Rebbe's Kasha on the words V'niksa? What's the Rebbe's Kasha on the word V'niksa?
Can you tell us what's the teaching
Everybody says in the pasuk.
The Kasha is that Rashi doesn't have to say it.
It's obvious.
The Rashi doesn't have to say it.
Right.
What is Rashi telling us by translating V'niksa Me'amarim? We would have thought of that by our own. In other words, the Rebbe's Kasha is not that V'niksa means something chassidish. No. V'niksa taka means cleansed from the accursed waters, because in the Shvuah it was already spelled out that if she's Taheda, she's Niksa Mimei Ha'ma'arim, and if she's not Taheda, there's the Latch-based bet of a Lanpul Yorech, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. So the Rebbe's Shaila is, if Rashi is pointing out the obvious, there's a reason. V'niksa Mimei Ha'ma'arim, what else? Why would you think otherwise? And Rashi is medayik to tell us V'niksa, because if Rashi wouldn't say it, we would make a mistake and something else. And you have to understand what the Rebbe is doing. The meaning of the words V'niksa Me'amarim is the segue to the answer on the second Rashi. When you understand why Rashi insists on pointing out that V'niksa means Me'amarim, it has to be said, because you would think something different, that explains why Rashi can only bring the 2 points that he brings. If she had children in pain, she'll have children without pain. If she had dark children, she'll have fairer children. And then there brings a Ram and a Goradia. Right, here's the Ram, the old Mizrahi. At the bottom of the page, he brings a Goradi, which is the Maharal Miprag. And they both study Rashi's V'niksa. The Ram learned as Rashi Bavoran the mit was on the main that V'niksa is a Hagdomo to V'nizra Zara. You shouldn't think that V'niksa is simply an introduction to V'nizra Zara. Meaning, the bracha that she's getting, Nizra Zara. V'niksa is not a bracha, it's a state of affairs. V'niksa, she's clean, so v'meila v'nizra Zara, says that I'm no. Look at the last 4 lines of this paragraph. Does Rashi shoydel and zot? Rashi says no. V'niksa made me'mayim ha'ma'arim. There's 2 separate brachas. Bracha number 1, that she's saved from the cursed waters. And bracha number 2, v'nizra Zara. In other words, the Rambam says that if Rashi would leave the word V'niksa alone and not translate me'mayim ha'ma'arim, we would think that V'niksa means it's not a bracha, it's just a fact. And therefore, V'nizra Zara, says Rashi says no. There's 2 brachas. Bracha number 1, V'niksa me'mayim ha'ma'arim, and number 2, and the Rebbe doesn't like the Rambam, gives you a bunch of reasons. Bottom of the page, Al Derav says kosher leitin tears from Goradia. That the Rashi is oisen zu bavoranen, am zol nish taitet V'niksa min ha'oinish. You shouldn't translate V'niksa that she's not going to be punished. Okay? Ukmei V'nika ish me'yav. Turn to page 36. Okay? Varum v'balda, as the Apostle sagt, befeirish frir hinaki me'amaramel. We already know from the Nusach HaShvuah that if she didn't do an Aveda, she's not going to be punished. So is mehecha teisa lema the zelbo losha v'niksa b'siyim ben yemeta nadar inyan? No. So the Guradi holds that since it already said before that V'niksa, she's going to be cleansed from being cursed, from punishment. So you have to say V'niksa, she's not going to be punished. That's how the Gerari explains it, and the Rebbe doesn't like the Gerari's pshat either. The bottom line is he brings two great achreinim that are trying to explain why Rashi does this really weird thing. I mean, if you were writing Rashi, would you translate V'niksa this way? From the curse? She's cleansed from the curse? Shouldn't there be something more pristine than just not being punished? But the Rebbe, so anyway, this is the Rebbe's kasha. What is bothering Rashi that he needs to translate V'niksa me'amarim?
But he's telling us what V'niksa means. He's telling us
Right, but why would we know? No, V'niksa Zara. There's two things. V'niksa means she's not going to be affected adversely by the poison water. V'niksa Zara, there's about the birth.
that's
So the shaila is V'niksa. Why? It has to be quiet. If it actually wouldn't say anything, we would know V'niksa, she's not going to be cursed. So the Rav gives one teretz, the Gerari with another teretz. The Rebbe doesn't like either teretz. We're not learning the Rebbe's upshlugs on the Ram and the Gerari. We're moving on. Siv Dalet. Okay, now this is the Rebbe's Higoya now. This is the Rebbe's brain. Okay? Rashi, B'pirushe kumfaren for Nashai l'pshut en pat. That's a very simple question. V'bal das by mashbiyah zan di isha. When the woman makes her shvua, before she drinks the waters, wenn euch gerechnet alle Praten, welche wollen geschehen, b'tetzah von shtiyas mayim ha'ma'arerim, everything that could possibly come from drinking the water of the Beis Rivka, on both sides. If she's tmeya, what could happen? And if she's taita, what could happen? The pasuk spells out explicitly and clearly and in detail what's going to happen to this woman if she's a tahira, what's going to happen to the woman if she's a tmeya, right? So the Rashi has a gewaldige kasha, a moedige kasha. Sai im loy shachav and sai im satis. Both if she's a tahira or if she's a tmeya, you list precisely what the me'am ma'arim are going to do to her if she's not a saita, and what the me'am ma'arim will do to her if she's in fact a saita. Is vikumtes as the noch. How could it be that after the pasuk was so explicit about the two sides of what's going to come to this woman, whether she's tahira or not tahira, when the pasuk read when you get to the end of the story, and she was a tahira, the whole new thing. V'nizra zara, she's going to have children. V'chaznit far ois gezok in der shua wasn't listened for. That this is what's bothering Rashi. When the Torah was so specific about what's going to happen to her if she's a tahira, loy satis, and what's going to happen to her if she's a tameya, if satis, it should say in that list, im loy satis hi naki me'em arame'ela v'tizra zara.
It says it that way only because when we have the Allah, we don't want to start, we don't want to only have Allah, so we have to balance out the curse.
Fine, so Bavra completely. Say all the pratim. Fine, and there's other aspects of it, but fine, let's go with your point, which Rashi of course brings. But say them all. Why are you leaving out V'nizra Zara?
Is that in the curse?
It's in what happens if she's not. It's like the imloi nitmis.
Right, so I'm saying it's a separate thing. You have the curse.
No, but it says imloi nitmis.
You have to have the
right, and it says hinaki. It says hinaki. Hinaki is the same as v'niksa. So just like you have the hinaki, you should have the V'nizra Zara. Why is the V'nizra Zara not included in her articulation of what's going to happen to her? They made her say these words. What they said to her, she said amen, amen, right? So what's going to be the teretz, Chavra? What's going to be the teretz? What's going to be the teretz? What's going to be the teretz? That it's written there.
Rabbi's going to tell us the teretz.
That it's written there. That V'nizra Zara is included somehow in the hinaki, and that's going to resolve all of the questions that we have in the sikh. To address this question, is Rashi maitik v'nik, so he quotes the word shall become cleansed, unzak mimayim ha'ma'arerim, from the accursed waters, number one. V'niksa, from the accursed waters. In addition, V'nizra Zara shall have children, which means if her children came to her heart, they can come easier. If her children were dark skinned, they'd be fair skinned, and so forth. For the mitvil Rashi mad gitai. What Rashi is doing here is As mit v'nizra azara meint detated to meses and aschar stam. The words v'nizra azara is not an extra bonus at the end of the story, an extra schar stam. Was he bekommt that she receives parenthesis mitzad dem kolon was he is durchgegangen because of the shame or whatever it is. No, das is a teitza op ula for the mayim ha'ma'orerim gufa. Just like the accursed waters kill the saita, the accursed waters bring children to the non-saita. And the v'nix of Nizra Zara are two things, but they're connected. Because the Nizra Zara is a byproduct of the v'nix. The Hainu. As nit nor was the mayim vel nit pearl keporonius. It's not that the accursed waters are not going to punish her. As vet von ze bottle of and them mo'order them, they're going to not be a curse. Which means like this: if she did an aveda, she's going to be punished. If she didn't the aveda, she's not going to be punished. No, if she did an aveda, she's going to be punished. If she did an aveda, she's going to be rewarded. That's what makes them equal and opposite. Not adrabah to be sure. V'loy oidela. These are Rashi's own words. The mayim vel noch peil sein an inyan shel bracha. These waters are going to bring to her a bracha. Hepech de ma'aradim, the opposite of a curse. What's the opposite of a curse? A blessing. What's the blessing? It is as I should have children. But the only way Rashi can get us to see that the mayim ha'ma'aradim, let's put it in straight words, the mayim ha'ma'aradim are never going to leave her neutral. They're either going to make her worse or better. The power of the mayim ha'ma'aradim is going to work in each event of a saita. Im loy nitma'a, she's going to have bracha. Im satis, she's going to have klala. There's going to be a net change in the matter of this woman, either for the better or the worse, by drinking the mayim ha'ma'aradim. So the mayim ha'ma'aradim could curse her. The mayim ha'ma'aradim she could be clean for the curse of the mayim ha'ma'aradim. But there's got to be an equal and opposite to the last was betel and yadich, right?
You still compare it to the sun on dry skin?
No, so that's a kasha. See, but when did they tell that to her?
Before.
When they're trying to convince her to drink it. No, that's not part of the klala. That's part of the strategy. So your point, I agree with you, that l'chayda it's only half. But the curse, the nusach that they tell her, im loy satis, im loy nitmis, im satis, is meant to be balanced.
It begs the question, why?
Why what?
At any rate, she didn't do anything good. Even if she's tar completely, right? She didn't do anything good. She went against her husband's ratzon. She was in sachid with someone she wasn't allowed to. It's against Allah, yichud, with an eid echad. And now because she didn't do anything wrong, so suddenly she gets brachas.
What's wrong with that?
I'm going to assume that you have shalom bayis at home. Yeah, we're good at home. Elizabeth says, you're walking into this. This is like a big, slow-moving softball right in the guy's wheelhouse.
Right down the middle?
Right down the middle, exactly the sweet spot. Okay, I don't know. I can give you a bunch of teruts. I'll give you a teruts. I'll give it to you. I'm beginning with the fact that there is machlekes in the Gemara whether it's a ruach tara or ruach toma. I mean, her husband's out of his mind.
No, but
Out to sasrim avicha, really? Out to sasrim avicha? Out to sasrim bincha? Guy's out of his mind. No, but then we paskin that's a ruach tara. In other words, we paskin that the guy's mechanic is on the mallet. In Allah is on the mallet.
no, but again.
Okay, I don't want to have this conversation. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. Okay.
At 11:15 we go there.
No, at 11:05 we go.
According to them.
1 second, he has never left. We never lost it. Und der Fahr legt zu Rashi v'niksa mayim but Rashi has to say that v'niksa is from the mayim amorim. What is Rashi telling us? What is Rashi saying by stating the obvious? We know from before, it's biblical. It's not Rashi's chumash. If you didn't sin, you're going to be cleansed. So why is Rashi repeating it again? Rashi is repeating it again because he doesn't want to say you're not going to be punished. He wants to say that it's a bracha. Hinaki imei ha'ma'aradim is not a neutral statement, it's a positive statement. Just like im satis, it's going to be a negative statement, so the hinaki is going to be a positive statement. He has no choice. Rashi has to say Maim Ha'aradim because he wants to establish that it's not you either get punished or you don't get punished. You either get punished or you get rewarded. And the only way he can set that up is by stating the obvious, by repeating what we already know. Hinaki Me'am Adam. We all know that it means that. We're understanding by those extra two words that this is not only not an oynish, it's actually a bracha. Das ist nicht azoi zu shayla sein an ander pirish in v'niksa. It's not meant to negate an alternative pshat of v'niksa, such as he's not going to be punished, or what was the one that the Ram brought? It's only a hagdama. Not echt zu madgish sein wie der v'nizra zora shal yachad at the tzaf ma'im ha'morim. V'niksa ma'im ha'morim. Her relation with the ma'im ha'morim is naki. And if her relation with the Mayim Adam is naki, it can't stay neutral. It has to go to the positive side, and that's the hemshech of Nizra Zara.
Isaiah 34 says that.
34.
Right, v'gam v'nixo pulas hamayim. Al pisa kumtais. Now the Rebbe repeats himself. As the V'nizra Zara is a tail v'hemshech fun v'niksa mayim ha'morim. That's the point. V'niksa is not a neutral word. It's a bracha. But v'niksa is the first words of the bracha. V'nizra Zara are the second words of the bracha. But the bracha of Nizra Zara is connected to the bracha of v'niksa. So we want to turn the v'niksa not into a neutral thing, but in a positive thing, right? Is b'meila nitkin kashi. It explains automatically. Now, we'll go back to the original question. So why was the V'nizra Zara not said in the Shua? That when the Kohen is saying the whole Shua, to which she's going to answer Amen, Amen, the Nusach HaShua should be Im Loi Nitmis. Right? And nobody else had a relation with you other than your husband. So then he Naki Me'amarim Aramel. Why doesn't it say V'nizra Zara? You know what the answer is? Listen to the Rebbe talk. Weil der Kohen sagt dem Inyan nar be'efen klali. The Kohen says it only in general. Hinake me'amarim. Und danach is the posach mefaret as the hinake me'amarim is echt the prat von Nizra Zara. In the beginning, he only generalizes hinaki. Why? Because hinaki doesn't mean you're not going to be punished. Hinaki means you're going to get a reward. Not but then the word hinaki's reward includes details that you're going to mention later on in the Sikha. The Rebbe is going to say Achei Chassidus a more meaningful pshat. That you can't say V'nizra Zara until you do the tshuva. Later on in the Sikha, the Rebbe is going to go deeper into why in the Shavua you can't say V'nizra Zara on a deeper level. But in the meantime, what the Rebbe is saying is this: if he naki means you're not going to be punished, then it should have said Nezach Hashua V'nizra Zara. But since he naki in the words the Shua means you're going to be blessed, so all the brachas are included in the hinaki, and he only spells out the brachas V'nizra Zara. But it's hinaki is already the bracha. Hinaki is you're not going to be punished. Hinaki is the bracha. Apikala now, on the basis of all the above, Rashi is mefarish V'nizra Zara and doesn't say that a woman who didn't have children is going to have children, but rather you let us b'tzad, let us b'revach, let us b'shchein, let us b'vanim. He only brings two examples that if you would have children and it was difficult to deliver them, you have an easier time delivering them. If the children were dark-skinned, they'll be fair-skinned. What's giving her a bracha? What's giving her? The waters. The waters of curse have been transformed into a blessing, and those waters are the source of a bracha. The tmuras pulas ahavchis. Of them imsatis, instead of those waters being a curse. Had she done the Aveda, now those waters are becoming a bracha because she hadn't done the Aveda. Says the Rebbe is mistaber, it's reasonable to presume as der Oifen from the Pe'ula L'Toiva, that the positive effect that comes from the bracha for a woman who was not nitma is bedugma zum Eifen from Belas Neifach. Has to be equal and opposite to curse. Just like the waters bring a curse. If she was a saita, the waters bring a bracha. If she wasn't a saita, the bracha and the klava have to match. Explains the Rebbe. 37 at the top. Just like if Chas Hashem she was Tmeya. These curses was nit nor mechasek in oilam. It would not only cause her to die. Skip the parenthesis. Nor dafka even for she would have a painful death. Right? She's going to die. She did Naveh, she's going to die. She's not only going to die, she's going to die in very painful, also going to die in a very public way. It's a spectacle. Right? So the Rebbe says her death includes, her punishment includes death and pain. If the woman hasn't sinned and the waters become a bracha, that's be equal and opposite. Is nit not as if it haben kinder in Israel Zara, of course she's going to have children. But the oifer von Israel Zara is lahepech von tzar. The way she's going to have children will be the opposite of pain. Im hoyser ledes betzar tailored berevech. She was having children in pain. She's going to have that pain. Now, Chavra, I don't know this for sure, but it seems to me that what the Rebbe is saying is that Rashi is combining Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel. He's not choosing Rabbi Shmuel over Rabbi Akiva. Of course, V'nizra Zara means if she has no children, she'll have children. Naturally. Wait. Why? It's the touch of the words.
No, it's a given.
Why doesn't Rashi have to say it? It's the Hebrew translation. The translation of the two words V'nizra Zara is that she'll have children. What does have to be said? What's not in the words? That just like this Saita means she's going to lose life and lose it painfully, now she's going to gain life and she's going to gain it without pain. So when Rashi says, it's not saying that this is the pshat. This is the pshat that I need to add. But that V'nizra Zora is true like Rashi, that if Chas v'Shalom she hadn't had children, she'll have children. Rashi doesn't have to say that, it says in the pasuk. What Rashi has to add, and this is the language that I'm sort of using, is he has to add the Zela Umazeh. So the word V'niksa Mimayim Ha'ma'aradim enlightens the Zela Umazeh. A woman who is not a Seita is not just not being punished, she's being rewarded. And what's the reward? Just like the Seita has two aspects of punishment, the non-Seita has two aspects of reward. Number one, life, and number two, painless life.
You could say that exactly what you just said, even by a lady who was Nakara. It just skips, goes all the way to having easy children.
That's exactly what I just said.
Exactly. Again, not arguing, agreeing.
He said it also. That's it.
Oh, okay, very good. Good. See, you're trying to tell me that you give the share. You're going to make me very jealous. I'm not a ruach tara. If I'm a kaneh, it's jealousy. It's alamidus rois. It's not coming from ruach tara l'shem shamayim. I'm just letting you know. Don't be careful. If you get too smart, I'm going to start getting very nervous. Okay, Chas v'Shalom may be true, but it's okay. Let's go. Al derech zeh im hoyse yeledes shchedim yeledes levarim. If she had dark-skinned children, to have fair-skinned children, says the Rebbe, "Beneged zu shachos upon him, was es bringen die Yisurim von Safsa bitten of nafli recha." The Rebbe holds that the Rashi brings that aspect because paneha merikes. One of the aspects of her very, very unnatural and painful death is that she changes colors. She loses her complexion. She becomes ashen. So both aspects that the Rashi are raising. He's not raising to tell us what V'nizra Zara mean. He's raising so that the V'nizra Zara should be the Zel Umazel, the opposite. Number one, she'll have kids. Number two, instead of being painful, it'll be pleasant. And number three, instead of her complexion changing for the worse, her complexion will change to the better in her offspring. Now, don't you agree that this is gorgeous? It's beautiful. It's beautiful. The Rebbe analyzes a Rashi that's got three words. V'niksa, Mimayim Ha'ma'aradim, V'nizra Zara, and that's more than 3 words. But the Rebbe shows you, he's in Rashi's head. It's very simple. The Rebbe is in Rashi's head. He's telling you what Rashi's thinking. Masha'engen di andere in Yonah was Chazal bringing, all the remaining things that the Gemara brings. Nekeves, is that the Scharim instead of female children, of male children. Ktsarim, instead of short children, of long, tall children, and instead of echad, you'll have the shnayim, one, instead of one child, you'll have two, you'll have the shnei shtan, you'll have the b'shana achas, and so on. Haben in sich kein tchunes, do not have characteristics, v'chahaben mashayches, v'dugma, to the pula by sotis nemay moradim. Since they're not the zela umazev, the curse, Rashi has to bring them in the blessing. It's really very simple. Once you journey to the Sikha, it's very simple.
Don't teach this to the ladies.
Now, the key to this Sikha, probably more than anything else, is why didn't Rashi translate V'nizra Zara that she'll have children? And the answer is, of course, he translated. But why didn't he say it? Because it's obvious. And the second,
Obvious.
it's attached to the words. It's pashut. And the second key to the sikh is that he has to translate the word v'niksa mimayim ha'order. The sikh, right? But the zalum mazeh is because we want the mayim and
That's
ha'order.
the chiddush of Rashi.
Correct. It shouldn't be neutral. Right. Correct. See, but what you gain from this Rashi is something else. The woman is being rewarded, but her reward is in context. It's not stamazoi.
But in other words, without this sikha, you wouldn't learn Rashi as it.
That's correct. You say, yeah, Hashem is being nice to her. Hashem is being nice to her.
I'm saying, in other words, the zelul mazeh is the chiddush of the sikha.
That this
That's
woman
Rashi
doesn't
says.
sue her husband for a get the next day. It's events haben Kinder. Okay. Vav. Der Inyan, as the Venizra Zor is nit stamaschar. It's not just an ancillary reward. Nor a tetzah fundi mayim amorim. Those waters are either going to kill you, cause you pain, and cause your complexion to change, or give you life, relieve you from pain, and give you a beautiful complexion. The mayim amorim will never remain neutral. And therefore, the bracha at the end is equal and opposite to the curse. Is oich maten meteichen apnimi for Satan. Now goes the Chassidus. What's the Chassidus of Satan? Now, who's the Satan? The Yid. Who's the husband? The Eibishter. But Cholos, in your pasuk ish, ki sister ish is a chazal, ein adam ever aveda, elem kein dech aveda shtus. You only do an aveda if you lose your mind. You're temporarily insane. This haste. As inyan asaitis meramed and meruach shtus, being, and of course, I'm sure you're aware that in the Kisva Yad Teiman, the Rambam spells the word Satan not with a samach like we do. He spells it with a sin smallis, which is amazing. The word Saita speaks to being stupid. That's what it speaks to. And the result of stupidity. And if a person gets stupid, you lose your head, you forget about the Eibishter, and quote unquote, you think you can get away with it. You know, today he's not watching, he's busy with something else. Explains the kinui, the jealousy of the husband, and the stira, the attempt to avoid the husband's jealousy, and then the need to drink the mayim b'vei ruchnis. As a yid behalt sich, kehrt sich up from the Meibishter. What side stira? Stira means to hide, stira means to go away. You think you can get away with it. Hashem ubarech. Hashem is not looking in this neighborhood. That ish v'kes v'sol is the Eibishter. And you say, stira, what's that stira? I'm going to hide from him. I'm going to go away from him. Our husband was jealous, which is probably the little bit word mechanic. Und angesagt, altistity, don't hide. Lo yilecha al ponai, what's that al ponai? Calls man shani sham, you can't hide. In other words, the Aveda is that you think you're hiding. You forget about it. The Aveda is that you're hiding. Und behalt sich mit nish achad dem Yetzirah. So, the kinui and the stira is, you're not going to hide from me. You're not going to hide. Don't even try. And the Yid thinks he could. But then it's reversed. Listen. Und der Inyan for Nix of Israel Zora Weist. And the idea that when a person was suspect by the Eibishter himself, and Beklaw, when the Eibishter had the suspicion, what did you say before? If there's smoke, there's fire. Especially if the Eibishter is the one with the smoke detector. Yeah? So what's the V'niksa Zora? It's vayv to the Yinat Tshuva. In other words, it's not the person didn't do an Aveda. Of course he did the Aveda. He did Tshuva. In Halacha, in Mitzias, he didn't do the Aveda. In Pnimius, he did Tshuva. Dorech Tshuva v'et nit no rein v'niksa v'tumas echet. When a person does Tshuva, obviously, they're cleansed from the Tumah of the Aveda. But there's more. No Nachman. As first of all, in Niksa, you're cleansed from the Aveda. And number two, you go to a place which is higher than the person who didn't sin in the first place. The tzaddik was higher than the tzaddik. So the Niksa means you did tshuva. V'nizra zara means you're a Baal tshuva and you're in a higher madrega than a tzaddik. Und das ba'avar into Rashi, as Rashi is saying. As the Venizra Zara, the Aliyah Shadei Tshuva, the fact that when you do Tshuva, it's not only that you're not Tomei, but you become even higher. It's Nistam Azaitik Yedinyan, it's not something which is in addition. The reason the Baal Tshuva is higher than the Tzaddik is due to the Aveda which came before. The Sikha that we always learn on Yom Kippur. That an Aveda is the Hechsher Mitzvah for the Tshuva. And the highest Madreg of Hechsher Mitzvah. The Aliyah is verbunden damit, the ascent is connected to the fact, was the Mayim Ha'ma'arim Gufa, the accursed waters themselves, is men hapach latei become good, is hapcha v'chulu v'tam and medidol l'miskas, deinis, nasla, gezachas, the biddy become sweet, the sins become merits. Now again, in Allah you can't play this game, but in Ruchnius, Saita, is the Abish to get involved on earth. Saita is a case where the Bezdin Shalmata leaves it to God. You hear what I'm saying? Yeah? What happens if she did tshuva? Is she going to blow up or not?
Yes. If she did something.
Okay. Und das is, the Gemara says that, this is, how does Talmud Teda land the Masechta Seita? This Gemara, this halacha that Kolam Alam and Bitei Teira, Kilam Am Tifos, how did it end up in Masechta Seita? Because the Shchus delays the punishment. Und das is the time, for how long? For 100 generations. Why not? Und das the time pnimi. Now here's a very interesting deal. One of the Rebbe's kashes, where the teretz was l'chayra bisl shver, was if the shvua lists completely both sides, why didn't it say in the tzad shvua im loy nitmes? Right? And nobody else was with you besides your husband. He naki. You're going to be clean. It should say, Hinaki, why didn't it say it there? So it actually said, the Rebbe said, because hence Hinaki is not neutral. It's a bracha, it includes all the brachas. But the Apich Chassidus was a much better tenet. Listen. But das der Tam Pnimim, was der Info von dieser steht, erst auf Sefer Pasha, wenn es kommt, er ist bepeil. Und nicht frier. Because L'chaira, it should have said before, the Rebbe gave us a shtickle tenet, Al Pipshat, that the Hinaki includes the Nizra Zara, but the Pneumus Hanyanam, he says a different reason altogether. Well, that inyan, this idea, as Durach the Yerid and Chet Seit, the fact when a person does an Aveda, and they do tshuva, they're cleansed, but in addition, Kumt Arois Denach an Aliyah, you go to an even higher level, like Lifnei Echad, before the Aveda, says the Rebbe, Ken it stein begol Lifnei Asiyas HaTshuva. The Torah cannot say that when you do tshuva, you'll be higher than a tzaddik if you haven't done the tshuva yet. It's not b'mitzias. So, the question was, if in the Nusach HaShvua, we spell out precisely the whole curse, and we spell out precisely the bracha, why don't we mention V'nizra Zara? So that the Rebbe said before, because the Hinaki includes the V'nizra Zara. But that is no. Because the V'nizra Zara was not b'mitzias until after the person did tshuva. So the Hinaki was there. If you'll do tshuva, you'll have a schus. When you finish doing your tshuva, you have an additional schus, which is not included in the Vihinaki because it's a result of the transformation of the mitzvahs, which you haven't done yet. Eider darid to tshuva, top of the second column by 38. Prior to Yitz tshuva, is dacha ema ve'echta ve'yashuv ema speaking about last tshuva. If a person does an aveda with the intent of doing tshuva, they don't help him. Metar nitan achet mit mechashbin. Sleep dead, but men had them ilif and tshuva. One is not allowed to do an aveda with the intent of doing tshuva later on. Only once they do tshuva actually. Only then is it revealed as the kavanah for them is given as zal zayin nitna de v'niksa v'kei de b'chet na v'nizra zara uftan aliyah yas naisa b'nevach olavanah. The way I'm hearing it is there's gavre and chefts. When a person does tshuva, there's gavre and chefts. When you do tshuva, you turn to the Eibishter's graces. When you do tshuva, your bad becomes good. There's a difference between those two things. The tshuva is in you. The bad becoming good is in the world. It's in the world. It's in the sin. You could say to the Baal Tshuva, listen, if you'll do tshuva, you'll be the Eibishter's friend. But you can say to the Baal Tshuva, if you do tshuva, the evil you created in the world will become a merit, because it's not in the Baal Tshuva's potential. It's in the world's potential. So it's going to happen. But it doesn't exist potentially in your lecture to the Gavra. That's how I'm seeing the difference. So the Rebbe is saying, you can't say V'nizra Zara, because the V'nizra Zara is not b'mitzias. The Hinaki is b'koyach. You could do tshuva, If you do tshuva, you're gonna go away from the curse, and you're gonna be blessed in the fact that you're going from the curse. But the change that's gonna happen, that's gonna make you higher than a tzaddik. This is my way of seeing the difference. Is not in you; it's in the world. You cannot include it in the bracha because at the time that you're being told to do tshuva, it wasn't memtzias. Now, did I say a good pshat? I don't know. Can you argue? I can argue it myself right now. What I just said is a little bit controversial, but I have no. This is the weak link in the sikh. The Venizra Zora not be included in the shua is a kasha. They never answered it, but l'chayr it's a doichik. Here he's giving a better teretz.
You can't say beforehand that.
You're talking to him about tshuva. So you can tell him you'll do tshuva and you're not gonna, and you'll be cleansed from your averis. You'll be close to the Eibishter again. You can tell him that, and that's not a problem of echtavashu. The only thing you can't tell him is then it's not sekizochis. What's the difference?
The next level that's actually going to be beneficial, and this avera.
Why can't you tell that to him?
Bringing you to a positive thing, because then it's like saying maybe I should do an avera.
Yeah, but you're talking to him about tshuva. You're not talking about averis. What's the difference between this aspect of the tshuva and this aspect of the tshuva?
It's the next level. It's taking the avera and making it holy.
I got that. Okay. Anyway, the Rebbe finishes. V'yisrael is in tshuva miyad ain't go. Finished. The Rebbe's off to the races now. Yeah, you didn't do tshuva. Mashiach comes miyad. As tmuras the tzar v'yisurim v'chavle Mashiach. Now this goes back to the island that you keep on asking. Yidden are in goes. Why? Because they did averis. What's Mashiach gonna come? You need the tzerech aliyah. Kannst du fragen Akasha, sind die Knish, du nicht tshuva? Excuse me, keep your mouth shut, yeah? Was vedrevach. As tmuras the tzar v'yisurim v'chavle Mashiach is out of the pains of the birth pains of Mashiach, vedrevach becomes comfortable. Und anstatt dem Schachris von Gold, so the blackness of gold, like it says in the Chazal, Hushcheru pneim sheyisol kishule kedera vet levonim de eir ha'geula, our faces become lit up. Und der revach levonim, our lack of pain, our comfort, and our lichtigkeit, hebt sich on noch lefnei ha'geula, the lester of gold begins before, and the lester take from gold, which is what we're living in, will lechol b'nei yisol ha'ober meshveisam, was noch sein dik in Mitzrayim lefnei ha'geula is bachel by the Mashiach tzar und noch mehr chol b'nei Yisrael b'meshvei. So in Mitzrayim you already had the lack of tzar in the beginning of lichtigkeit. Und man geht zu der Geula amitis v'ashleima in an eifem for beshuva nachas li b'sheyun b'meidim min mamish, and in the later years it never changed that to take it from yad mamish. Okay, nice, huh? Ich sag schön.